Well, good afternoon. Hey, good day. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center. Today is Saturday. We're having our dispatcher 101 training for beginners training. We're going to do some load board training today a little bit. Before I get started, I want to see if there's any questions, preliminary questions before we go into the load board training. Anything that you may need help with navigating. Someone just sent me a text. I think it was Regina. So as far as getting to the portal, so when you become I see you, Didi. I'm gonna get to you also. When you get to when you enroll, the email that you get approved with should take you to this area right here, the members portal, and you would enter in, it'll be the login by default if you've already got approved. If you haven't gotten approved and you sign up for the first time, then you would, set up your email and password for approval. Okay. But since if this is the same Regina that's looking at the screen now, with you and your husband that sent me the text, then this is the, okay, cool. So it's right here that you would log in, but to get to there, let me show again. I had sent the homepage of the website. And I was saying under Dispatcher 101, you will go down to step 2, members portal main menu. It'll take you to this screen right here to log in. Since I saw you as being approved already, all you would have to do is enter the email and password that you had used when you got approved, when you signed up. And you just enter that in. And it should take you to this page here. This is the back office, or what we call the main menu. Okay, this is the area with all the modules and all the other resources that are available. Okay, so if you're in this area, you're in the right place after you signed in. Is this where you're having your trouble?
Okay, when I got the approved, and I probably didn't go back to log in, but when I was looking at that page where you showed where you found the login, when you go to the initial page, I didn't see the members login link there under those headings. I didn't see that. So I can go back to see if I just overlooked it, but I was trying to do something because it kept giving me verifications. You know how it sent me a code to verify who I am. Okay. So I just don't know what happened. I'm thinking that the day that I got approved, I didn't log in right away, and that could have been it. I don't know.
Yeah, it may have that login confirmation email may have expired. I may talk to my team to see if we can keep that unlimited time until the person logs in, as opposed to having it expire. That could be the case. I will double check. And we'll go.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's what happened to me.
Okay.
All right.
But to get there is from the homepage of the website, and I'll show it one more time.
Okay.
Right here. So this is our homepage of our website. Right. And then under Dispatcher 101, because you're in dispatcher training, so under Dispatcher 101, you're going to, when you first enrolled, it took you to this page to set up your email and password to be able to access the portal. Mm-hmm. After you've gotten approved, you go to step 2, which takes you to the login screen.
Okay. I'll give it another shot and see what happens.
All right. Edie, got your hand raised.
Yes, hi. I wasn't able to make it on Wednesday to the training, but I looked it up. Monica was talking about like to send money, like they will give us pay when they give the drivers the pay. But she said something. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, continue.
Oh, she said something about that we will need an ACA like, is that something special we need, or would that automatically come in when we're signed with the driver or have our agreement with the driver?
Okay, so let me explain what Monica was talking about, her process. If you have a carrier that you brought under a dispatching, let me mute everybody too. If you have a carrier that you brought to dispatching, or I'm sorry, if you have a carrier that you brought to a factoring company, right? And they get set up with Monica's factoring company, which is, her company is called 7 Oaks. And they will send them, 7 Oaks will send your carrier that you brought to them what's called an application to fill out to be qualified for that factoring company. They fill it out, they ask some questions. One of the questions will be, do you have a dispatcher? Now, remember, this is the factoring company talking to the carrier that you brought to them, right? So let's say I'm the carrier that you happen to bring to the factoring company. And I say, yeah, I got a dispatcher, and here's their name, Dee Dee Smith or whatever, right? And they'll say, okay, you got a dispatcher. What do they charge you? What is their percentage or their flat fee for the week? Let's say it's a percentage. So if you charge anywhere between 5 and 10%, you can mention that, or whatever your percentage is that you charge for your dispatching services to that carrier, or all carriers for that matter. So they say 7%. So they put 7% on the application. They finish the application up, get it all done, send it to the factoring company. Factoring company approves them. When that carrier submits their very first invoice or POD for factoring to get paid by the factoring company, since they're using the factoring company, the factoring company is going to contact you, also the dispatcher, and say, hey, our client, which you brought to us, your carrier that you're dispatching, just submitted their first invoice for factoring, and the load paid $3,000. You charged 7%. So 7% of, what is 7% of $3,000? What is that dollar amount? What's 7 times 3? Anyone?
21, I think, Charles.
Right, so 7% of 3,000 is $210. So that's what if you book that load for your carrier for a gross rate with a broker or a direct customer, if it may be, for $3,000, and you charge 7% for doing that, then that carrier owes you $210 for that. So the factory company is going to say, hey, your carrier submitted an invoice to be paid by us, the factory company. We're going to pay you as well because you brought that carrier to us. And part of a service that we offer is we pay the dispatchers at the same time that we pay the carriers. Now, they normally pay you through a wire transfer. The factory company is going to ask for the dispatchers ACH information. ACH stands for Automated Clearinghouse. All it is they're going to ask you for your business, either your business checking or business savings, and more than likely it's going to be a business checking. That's where transfers, you can't do a transfer with a savings. You can do a transfer from one company to the next business-wise with a check. So they're going to ask you for your business checking account number and your business checking routing number for your business account. That is an ACH transfer so that they can pay you, they can wire the money to you. So they're going to wire you $210, and they're going to give the difference, the remainder of that money, 210 from 3,000. They're going to give the rest to the carrier. So I'm doing the math now. 3,000 from 210. The rest goes to the carrier, which is $2,790. So of the gross amount of that load that you booked for the carrier, 210 goes to you, 2,790 goes to the carrier. And the factoring company, if that's the relationship that was set up with the factoring company and the carrier and the dispatcher, that's how that would work. That's what the ACH concept is. They will send you a separate form, Mr. Dispatcher, from the factoring company saying, hey, we need your account details so that we can wire your money. So not only for this first transaction that your carrier submitted to us for factoring, but for any other future transactions going forward, as long as that carrier is a client of us, of our factoring company. Okay, that's how that works, Dee Dee.
Okay, so it's not like off a reference. It's just dealing with the factoring company that would do it. That's like the abbreviation that they use. I thought it was like we needed something very special for them to send money to us, but it's just
They just need to know how to pay you, whether to pay you a paper check or wire the money to your business checking account. It'll be wise to have a business checking account as opposed to a personal, because why would you send your money that you have due to you from a carrier that you've done business with to a personal account, right? The two don't add up, right? So, Eugene.
Hey, Charles, I don't mean to run you in a circle here, but same question again. And this time, the driver has their own factoring company.
So if the driver has their own factoring company and that factoring company participates in paying a dispatcher at the same time as paying a carrier, then it'll be the same process as Seven Oaks. If that driver who has a factoring company does not participate in that concept of paying the dispatcher at the same time as paying the carrier, then you, the dispatcher, will have to wait until the factoring company pays the driver, and you, the dispatcher, you will still invoice your carrier for that amount. That same example, $3,000, $210 that's due to you at 7%. You will just invoice the driver, since the factoring company doesn't participate in that concept of paying the dispatcher at the same time as paying the driver.
And so can you also do the ACH with the driver?
You certainly can. Whatever payment method you want that driver to pay you. Now most drivers are just they may cash app you the money, Zelle, wire transfer. You may invoice them with your PayPal account or your Square account, and they pay you if they have a PayPal or Square account, or with a credit or debit card. Just make sure whatever your payment income that's coming in is tied to a business checking account that you have. So your monies get deposited into the right account for you for business purposes, because you got to track that, because you are a business owner. So you have to track the income that you're coming in for tax purposes.
Right, correct. So that's why I was wondering, like, I don't know if most people, well, I have Cash App, but it's not tied to any kind of business or anything. So I was just curious as to, can they, I mean, it's some assured way that you can get that money through ACH to get right into the business account, as opposed to you getting paid through some other kind of software and then having to transfer it over into a business account and saying, well, this explaining this is what it is. You understand?
I understand what you're saying. So if the software you're using is connected to your business account already, then that'll be a seamless process. For example, if you're using PayPal, if you have a PayPal or a Square business account, that means when you set that account up for a business account, you already attached it to your business checking account for your company. So now when you send out invoices for payment, you are receiving those payments. They'll deposit directly into your account that's tied to that software, that PayPal or that Square, which is your business checking account. So it's a seamless process.
I see what you're saying. So when that process takes place, I guess I got mine set up through I got like 3 accounts anyway, and it's not attached to the business, it's just attached to a personal account. So I would have to switch the Cash App over to the business account, but then I guess I could do a record keep with the invoice and say the transaction, or write on there some kind of way on the invoice, transaction was made through this source, Cash App or something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I were you too, as your business grows and you progress, look into a CPA, an accountant, to make sure that you're doing it, doing your books correctly.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Keisha.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How long does it take for the factoring company to pay the carrier? If I missed that, I apologize.
No, that's a great question. You didn't miss that. That's the first time that question was asked.
Thank you.
So factoring companies have payment structures typically set up like this. If they usually do, they pay either same day or next day, depending on the time of day the carrier turned in the invoice to be paid for factoring. After they receive their POD, their proof of delivery from a receiver, proving that they delivered that freight to that location, now they would want to be paid. So some factoring companies, their time structures for same day payment are different than other factoring companies. So for example, I'm not sure if Seven Oaks does it, but some factoring companies say if the carrier turns in submit their PODs and invoicing for factoring before a certain time, let's say 3 p.m., 4 p.m., or 5 p.m., that same day, that gives the factoring company to process the information as proof of delivery and pay them the same day. Otherwise, they'll pay them the next morning when normal business hours. So if the carrier turns in their invoices by a certain time that day, they'll get paid the same day. Otherwise, they'll get paid the next day. Right. So it's typically 24 to 48 hours after delivery, depending on the time of day the invoices and PODs, proof of deliveries, were submitted by the carriers or the dispatcher. Sometimes the dispatcher can turn in the PODs and invoices on behalf of the carriers. But most time when you new dispatchers start out with carriers, you are letting the carriers handle the invoicing and paperwork themselves, and the only paperwork you're dealing with is the broker carrier agreements, the rate confirmations, and you invoicing the carriers for your services, to pay you for your services. It is not until you grow and progress in that relationship between you, the dispatcher, and the motor carrier, that you may offer and open up more services on behalf of them, bookkeeping, invoicing, compliance, and things like that. But first, you want to get your dispatching concepts down to begin with.
Thank you, Charles.
All right. Any other questions before I move into some load board training? That's what I wanted to cover today. Terrence said, I think that one business account number would be good enough for all business money to flow through. Keep a personal account apart. That's correct. Keep it separate. Keep your personal account separate for personal reasons, your business account for business reasons. Hey, April, got your hand raised. What's up? It's Austin.
Good morning, Charles. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay. I see you're getting ready to get into load boards.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't get into it. I tried last night several times and it kept giving me an error.
Which load board were you trying to get into?
That.
Okay. So let's go to that. Let's go to the area in here. So that's a good segue into the load board training. So under module 2.
Yes, sir.
Load boards under module 2. And you are looking to get into the DAT power select. DAT power selection.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there is a right here, DAT power select. If you notice, there's a PDF right here, right? You see the PDF right there where it says new load board logins here?
Yes.
Did you look at the PDF to get the username and password for the particular load board that you're trying to access?
No, sir. As a matter of fact, I put in my own email and password.
That's what you made the mistake.
Okay.
Your own email and password that you got approved for is only used to access the portal.
Okay.
The access to the load boards are, because if you notice, the load boards are numbered. Number 1 is Trucking Planet. Number 2 is Trucker Path. Number 3 is DAT Power Select Carrier. Number 4, so on and so forth.
Yes, sir.
So the usernames are in this PDF. I'm not going to click it because this is a recording, but the usernames are in this PDF called New Load Board Logins here. If you click that, for each load board and they're numbered. So number 1, the username for number 1 applies to number 1's load board, Trucking Planet, that we have listed in here. The same for number 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So once you click that and open it up, it'll show you for number 3, it'll show you the username and password to access that load board.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to open up a particular load board that this is more of a broker level load board, but I want to just I just want to expose you to a little bit more on it's a DAT load board. It's called DAT Power. It's not the one that we have back here, that Power Select Carrier, but it's the large. This is my corporate level that I share with a major broker. Or I'm sorry, that I have an account with a major broker with, because I want to show you more in the industry from a broker and a carrier side as a dispatcher. Okay, so you can see. All right. So in this load board, if you notice, first of all, for those of you who do not know what a load board is, a load board is the software where the shippers and the brokers, they have a login to, they pay a subscription for it, and they post their loads for sale to the other people who have a login to this load board and pay a subscription to, and those are the carriers, the motor carriers, the truck drivers, the trucking companies. So load boards there's different types of load boards or different level or versions, right? There are broker type load boards, and then there are motor carrier and truck driver type load boards. What do I mean by that? A person who have a broker MC login to a load board has more features than someone who's a carrier. A carrier, a truck driver, an owner operator only needs to have the ability to post their trucks as being empty and available and to search for loads. That's all a carrier would need to have a load board for, to access for. With a broker level load board, they can have the ability to have all four of these features. They can post loads, they can search for trucks because they're brokers. They can post trucks if they're asset-based as a broker, and they can search loads to do a comparative analysis when they are quoting shipments for a potential customer, okay? So I have a broker level load board, right? So now I'm gonna go into search for a load. Let's pretend we're looking for a load for our carrier. Assume we got a carrier under a dispatcher agreement, and we're looking to find a load for them and keeping them running in certain areas of the country. So I'm gonna hit search loads, okay? And I'm going to delete this one that we did. We had a broker class last night, and it was off the hook. I had we had a real broker in there and a real shipper in there, and it was giving the perspective of what shippers look for in brokers. So that's a real world perspective. We're in the search loads feature, right? So we're looking for a load. We can look for any load. The first thing you want to look for is what type of truck is your carrier. When you get your carrier, your truck driver under a dispatcher agreement, you should hopefully already know what their equipment type is, right? What trailer and truck type do they have, right? Our class, we try to advise you to focus on the three. What are the three major equipment types that we try to tell you guys to focus on as dispatchers? Anyone?
Dry van, flatbed, or reefer.
Dry vans, flatbeds, and reefer. So of these options, we can select one of those. Let's select the dry van, right? And let's look for a load. We want to keep our carrier running, right? So let's look for a load. Let's say my area, I'm in the Chesapeake, Virginia area, right? So the truck is the equipment type that you're looking for. You can either look for any category or only, right? If you select only, it gives you more specific equipment types, very detailed equipment types. If you click the any, it'll give you the generalized version of those equipment types, just standard vans, right? As opposed to the very particular types. Next would be the origin. The origin is the location of where your carrier wants to pick up a load from. It is also called, what's another name for the origin location?
The deadhead.
Not the deadhead. So another name, there's two other names for the origin location. You may want to write this down. The other name for the origin location is the shipper. Because the shipper is who ships the load out. That's where most truck drivers pick up loads from, a shipping facility, because they are shipping out the freight. It's going out, okay? It's being shipped out, right? And then now the technical name that you may see on paperwork or on like BOLs, bill of ladings, or rate confirmations, the other name for a shipping location or the origin is called the consignor. I'll put that in the chat. I'll spell it out for you. So we have origin, we have shipper, and we have consignor. And of course, all this is repeated in the lessons and in the modules and stuff like that, right? That's the origin location. So let's do origin. Let's type in Chesapeake, Virginia for a drive-in, right? Chesapeake, Virginia. So we're looking for a load for our van driver that we have under a dispatch agreement coming out of Chesapeake. Ash, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so last week I actually kind of asked you, I mean, not really last week, on Wednesday, I asked you this question. So you went over the zones. So like there's a few zones that you have within the map of the United States. Did you have like a map of that? Like each zone, is it like numbered? How is it named, and is that in the modules?
Yep. So if you look under tools and resources, right? Key market areas, there's different zones here. Let's scroll down further, right here, zones. These are the zones and the states thereof, okay?
Oh, okay, I see it.
And here's another one, zones in the state. And these are, if you click these are PDFs. This one right here, this is a PDF. If you click it, you can download it to a PDF and you can expand it and make it grow, right? And print it out. Now, the next one that was under this, let's go to the one that was under it so I can show you, is the zones and the states in them right here.
And is this kind of universal? So if I mention this to any trucker, would they know the zones that I'm talking about? Or sorry, a carrier?
Yeah, if they don't, then that should be a red flag, especially if they've been driving for
Okay.
especially if they've been driving for a year or more.
Okay.
Okay. If they've been driving for a year or more, they should know the different zones. There's zone 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and zone 9. And they're based off of, here's a caveat. If you notice the zones, they are in the states. Let's look at zone 4, right? Zone 4 has Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, right? So what's the starting number for a city's zip code in each of those states? What's the starting, like Columbus, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan? What do they zip code? What numbers does the zip code start with?
4.
Exactly. I'm in Virginia. Our zip code numbers start with what? 2.
2. Mm-hmm.
I'm in 23321. I'm in Chesapeake. Anything 23464, 23, whatever. It starts with a 2. So that's zone. North Carolina, same thing. Zone 2. So that's the clue. The zone, whatever the zone number is, it tells you of the zip code of that city and state. So you can say, hey man, I'm in Houston, Texas. Okay, you're in zone 7 because Houston's 77107, 77111. There's different zip codes in the area. It starts with a, so now you're catching on to that now, right? The zone number is the zip codes in those particular cities and states in that particular region, right? So that should help you right there. So a carrier should have picked up on that. Now with Canada, it's the zones are based off of the province, okay? The provinces, all right? Because I think Canada has like 12 provinces, and then you have the zones in Mexico and things like that. So I wouldn't worry about the zones in Canada and Mexico until you entertain getting into international freight, because we border 2 international countries, Canada to the north, Mexico to the south. Right now, master the United States, all the 48 states, well, 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii, but master the inland states, stateside, as they call it in the military. Okay, so, but the zone, New York, the Northeast zone, zone 1 and zone 0, like New York, 11206, that's Brooklyn, right? So, and Philadelphia starts with a 1. Jersey starts with a 1, right? So now you're catching on. So that's how that works, okay? So going back to the load board, did that answer your question, Ash?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Going back to the load board. So we got a dry van carrier that we got under a contract, a dispatcher agreement, right? And we're looking for a load coming out of the origin location, which is the shipper location, and the consignor location, Chesapeake, Virginia. Let's say it's going to Houston, right? Let's say Houston, Texas. So what zone is Houston, Texas in? We just said it.
7.
7. What zone is Chesapeake, Virginia in?
Two.
Two, you guys are gonna be master dispatchers after a while. And if you start talking to the carriers in that lingo and they don't understand it, it's time to find another carrier. Because, you know, I'm on this level, Mr. Carrier. I need you to catch up. I can't teach you how to your business. You should already know this, right? Or this may give you an opportunity to leverage that knowledge in order to educate the carrier, in order for them to be interested in you as a dispatcher. So you can look at it several ways, right? And that depends on the type of conversation you have initially with that carrier, right? So going from Chesapeake, Virginia to Houston, Texas, available means when will it be available for pickup? When will the load be ready? When will the shipment be ready, right? Load, freight, cargo, shipment. Those are different terms for the same thing, okay? Let's say Monday, which it will be May 1st, okay? Let's say we're picking up a load on Monday. Now, right here where it says DH-O and DH-D, this means deadhead from the origin, Chesapeake, Virginia, and deadhead from the destination, Houston, Texas, okay? That means how the deadhead from the origin, how far, and the standard amount is 100 miles these days. How far empty is your truck driver willing to drive from where they're currently located, their 20 position, their current position, to the pickup location in Chesapeake, Virginia? Well, the most they're willing to do that is 100 miles. So what this DHO says, 100 says, I'm willing to find a load in Chesapeake and within the 100-mile radius around Chesapeake, anywhere within that radius of Chesapeake and 100 miles. That's what that means. And I'm willing to deliver anywhere. The reason why he's heading to Houston, he may want to go see family. He may have people that live in the area. So he wants to have a load delivering in the Houston area or within a 100-mile radius, because he can still get home in a timely fashion and home. Let's just change this. You can change it to 50. You can change it to 75. The smaller the deadhead radius, the less number of results or hits you want to get as far as finding loads once you hit search. Okay, so I keep it standard at 100, right? And then the next one, F/P, that means a full or a partial load. So you hit this drop down, you can say full, partial, or both. I'm going to hit both so I can increase my results of both full and partial loads as opposed to only full or only partial. You want to increase your likelihood of finding a decent load. The length, what's the length of the load? Yeah, deadhead truck is empty, that's correct. The deadhead means how far your driver is willing to drive empty from their current location to that pickup location. In this case, Chesapeake, Virginia. And the going standard these days is 100 miles. Most drivers are willing to drive up to 100 miles empty from where they currently are, their position, their 20, to a pickup location in Chesapeake, Virginia, or within a 100-mile radius, okay? The feet is usually, I'm gonna put the longest feet. If you leave it blank or put 53 feet in, that means the same thing, okay? Weight, you put the weight in according to your truck driver's profile. When you got that truck driver under a dispatcher agreement, remember the dispatcher packet that had the dispatcher agreement, the carrier profile, and the limited power of attorney. Well, on the carrier profile, remember let's go to that. On the carrier's profile, they listed their weight requirements. They listed their mile requirements, cents per mile, and things like that. So let's go back to forms and documents under tools, docs, and resources, and look at a carrier profile, right? And they put under the dispatcher specifications, they put their weight, what their weight limit is, right there, that line right there. They will fill that out and say, hey, I don't want to haul no more than 40,000 pounds, right? So I'm not sure, Bonsia, why you can't get into the site. I'm not sure. We have to review that after training. Ash, you have your hand raised.
So driver touch, does that mean unloading and loading up?
That driver touch means, that's a great point. Yeah, driver touch means that the broker may require the driver to assist. They call it driver touch or driver assist, where they may get into the trailer with a pallet jack or a hand truck and take some freight cargo and push it to the tail of the trailer so that they can grab it with a forklift, or the forklift may be broke down at the facility. They may have to get a pallet jack and get up on their pallet and wheel it all the way off to the loading dock or to the inside the warehouse.
And what about endorsement? What would that significant?
So some drivers have different types of endorsements under their commercial driver's license, like a tanker endorsement or a hazmat endorsement, to haul different hazardous materials, or a tanker endorsement to haul fuel or oils and things like that. So that's what that means, different types of endorsements. Okay. Are you in, Vancia? You said I got it. Okay.
Yes, I'm resetting the password now.
Okay, got it. All
Thank
right.
you.
So, okay. So now on the load search under weight, you go to you refer to your carrier's profile, because that is where the carrier on the profile, they gave you their requirements. So let's say this example, they said 38,000 pounds. I don't want to haul no more than 38,000 pounds. Now, what do you think perhaps the number one reason why a carrier wouldn't want to haul the maximum weight on their trailer?
Gas.
Cost of fuel.
Thank you. Ding, 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 ding. Fuel. So if you found a load that is more than what they require, more than what they say they want to haul, but it looks like a decent rate, would you overlook it, or would you run it by your carrier?
Talk to the carrier.
Talk to the carrier just to see if they are willing to take it. Let's say it was 40,000 pounds. That's only 2,000 pounds more. Let's say you found a $5,000 load, but it was 40,000 pounds, and it was going like 1,500 miles. That's not bad if you think about it, right? If you calculate cents per mile, and how do you calculate cents per mile? You take what the rate is paying, and you divide it by the number of miles that the driver has to haul that load, right? So $5,000 divided by 1,500 miles, that's $3.33 a mile. And this is a dry van. So I would have that conversation with the driver and see, I can almost guarantee he's going to take that load at that rate in this day and time, because the rates are fluctuating right now. The only thing you also have to be aware of as a dispatcher is, where's that load taking the driver to, and will I be able to find him or her something coming out of there? So just because it's a good paying load going in, you want to make sure you can get them out of there too. Because the more they sit and have to wait for another load, that's money lost, right? Or they may have to deadhead to a better area that they burning fuel, so that $5,000 is being eaten with fuel trying to find another load. So that's another art and science of dispatching too. You want to make sure that you're sending your drivers into and out of areas that you can get them loads for, okay? So, 30,000 pounds. Now this search back says, how many hours do you want to search back for? 2 hours, 6 hours, we put 6 hours here for back loads that you may have missed that could have been still posted and are still good loads. So now I hit search, and my results set, I got for right now, picking up on Monday, coming out of Chesapeake, Virginia, going to Houston, Texas, there's only 5 loads right now, because I gave specific requirements, right? Specifically coming out of Chesapeake, going specifically to on Monday. Now, if I didn't put a date in there may be more options. Regina.
Okay, you were saying if the driver took the load that was overweight, I thought they were not supposed to do that.
It wasn't. So it wasn't an overweight load. It was over the weight. It was over the weight that they put in their weight limit as far as what they want to haul in their trailer. So a dry van trailer can hold up to 45,000 pounds. So it wasn't an overweight load where it requires a permit and pilot cars and all that stuff. It was over the weight that they said they put on their carrier profile that they want to haul only no more than 38,000 pounds. Well, you found something for 40,000 pounds. Also, for their particular trailer type, that dry van trailer can haul up to between 42 to 45,000 pounds. So it's not an overweight load or an oversized load. It's just more weight than what they want. it's more than their weight limit that they're willing to haul. You understand? You follow that, Regina?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So now I got 5 loads here, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a load with a specific lane where it got picking up from somewhere and delivering somewhere. So, oh, speaking of which, the destination, I gave you the origin. The origin is also called the shipper location and the consignor. The destination is called what? The receiver location, because that's where it's being delivered to. It's a receiver location or the consignee. Let me type that into the chat so you can have that as well. So we already got the origin, but the destination is also called the receiver because they are receiving the freight, right? And the consignee, or some people call it consignee, however you pronounce it. Making sure I know what you're saying. The carrier wants to carry less than maximum weight because it burns less fuel, which means more. That's correct. So the more weight on the trailer that truck has to push and exercise their engine and burn fuel, then the more it's going to cost in fuel costs. The less weight on a trailer that the truck has to pull, then the less they're required to burn in fuel, which means they're going to save money on fuel. That's what that means, Terrence. So, okay. And so we're here now. So now on this load board, we got a result set. We got 5 results, right? 1 exact match and 4 similar matches, okay? That's fine, right? Let's look at the exact match. It's picking up in Suffolk, Virginia. Suffolk is 22 miles from Chesapeake. That's what that means. So the deadhead from the original lookup search in the filter was Chesapeake, Virginia. Well, Suffolk is 22 miles from Chesapeake. It's a full load. It's a van, the truck. It picks up on the 1st. This load has been up here for 25 minutes. It got posted for 25 minutes by this broker called Hub Group Inc. I guess they're in Pittsburgh, right? It's driving. It picks up in Suffolk. It drives 1,380 miles to Brookshire, Texas, which is 37 miles from Houston. See that? And if you click the link here, I'm gonna open up another tab, the mileage 1,380, it will give you a map of that trip, okay? From Norfolk area or Suffolk area down over to the Houston or Brookshire area, okay? And you'll be able to see that. You can expand and contract it, as you see fit, okay? And you can, let's go back, let's minus that, there we go. And you can see the route itself, see? And how long it's gonna take. It's gonna take 1 day, 24 hours and 1 minute. It's gonna take more because that's a straight drive time, but you gotta figure your driver has hours of service, they gotta stop, do a reset, things like that. So I would say a day and a half, maybe 2, just to be safe, okay? Because it's 1,300 miles. So that's gonna be about 2 days, roughly, okay? Now, as a dispatcher, let's look at this other stuff here too on this load board navigation tour. We got the trip miles. The trip miles, or what's called the loaded miles, is from the time your driver's trailer is loaded, transporting that freight from the shipper location to the receiving location. That's called trip, loaded miles, or the distance, right? That's the distance. Company is the person who posted that load, either a direct customer or in most cases, a broker, a brokerage. You can click this, you can right-click that and see who they are, okay? And get their information, their contact information. The length of the trailer is 53 feet. The weight is 37,356 pounds. It's going to be less than 38,000 pounds because we put that as a requirement, 38,000 pounds or less. If we left that blank, let's edit that and take that out, take a weight out. That 5 result set is going to increase to more loads. And sure enough, 2 more loads, 7, right? So you just look for loads that meet your carrier's requirement as far as the weight, still 38,000 or less. Okay. CS, that is so looking at the first load here, we're still looking at the first load as an example. That is, CS is the credit score of the broker. Okay, what is their credit score? So brokers have credit scores and credit ratings, right? They have an A, B, C rating, credit score 0 to 100. If it's 87 or 88 or better, that's a decent credit score. So they have a 90, so they're pretty much okay. DTP means days to pay. How long after the load is delivered? What are their days to pay after delivery? They have 20 days. This is assuming that you're not using a factoring company, or I should say the carrier is not using a factoring company. This is assuming that this is a standard paper check that they're going to send to the carrier after they deliver. They have up to 20 days, after which if they go beyond that, then they are in breach of contract, because the broker carrier agreement specify, hey, we're going to pay you 20 days after. If you select paper check, we're going to pay you 20 days after delivery by paper check. If you selected the other options, they will pay according to that. We're going to charge an extra percentage for that. But brokers offer quick pay up to 5%. They offer ACH wire transfer up to 3%. And then they offer paper check. If your carrier has a factoring company, all this goes away, assuming that the carrier's factoring company approves that brokerage for factoring. Okay. Then you don't even have to worry about all this, because the factory company did it for you, or for the carrier, for the truck driver, the owner operator. Okay. And they would say right here, factor, there'll be a check mark. In this case, this is not a factored load. They don't have a rate on it, and you can't book it, right? You got to call them and try to negotiate things like that. Any questions so far right here before we go on in the process? Open up the load and go into a little bit more details about the navigating.
Hey, Charles.
Sir.
I have a question. You said credit rating and credit score. So that CS is not just credit score. Is it something different?
No, the CS is the credit score. Brokers do have credit ratings also, like an A rating. A and B ratings for a broker is a good rating. An I rating, an N rating. I rating means that they have something in their brokerage that they haven't submitted yet for a rating that's incomplete, some kind of document that they didn't submit, which causes their rating to be incomplete. An N rating means that the broker it's an active brokerage, but they're new with an authority less than a year old. That means that they're new. That's what N means. They're a new broker. And then there's other ratings too.
So how would you go about finding those ratings in particular? Those
that's more on the shipper and factoring company back end. And you can look up if you have a resource to look up specific brokerages and things like that. The factoring company will deal with the ratings of the factoring company. The credit score is posted on here because they have to post their credit score so that carriers can see and determine if they want to deal with that broker.
Okay, so
and if you have a 90 credit score, that's a pretty safe indication that your rating is also good too, because the two have to coincide with each other. They have to be parallel.
Okay, got you. All right. Yeah.
So you can't have a 90 credit score and then an N rating or a C rating or whatever, something that's not good, right? It wouldn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right. Anyone else? Okay. So let's go into if you're looking at a specific load. Okay, Ash, you got your hand raised.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't know if you went over this already. So for example, this one doesn't have a rating on it. So would you call them? Or what's your criteria to give them a call?
So one criteria is, okay, I'll call my carrier first and say, hey, I got a load that's going to your area that you said you want to go to towards Houston. It's 37 miles from Houston. It picks up 22 miles from Chesapeake. And the broker is this, the weight is this. So it meets all your requirements. They don't have a rate posted. So how do you determine that? If you don't see a rate posted by a broker, what do you do to determine that? Well, let me bring up the calculator. Sometimes the reason why brokers don't post rates because they want to see if they can trick you out of money, right?
Right.
in the negotiating process. So here's a calculator. How would you figure out a rate and include your percentage as a dispatcher? Well, let's do it like this. We didn't say, okay, so in our carrier profile, let's say the carrier said they wanted, let me go back to the carrier profile here. And let's say they wanted their cents per mile. This is a dry van. So let's say their cents per mile they wanted was, I don't know, $2.50. Right? Seems decent. Picking up in Chesapeake. Now, if you don't know what the average cents per mile is for the that particular area, it's picking up in Chesapeake. So that's in zone. What zone is Chesapeake in again, guys? What zone is it in?
2.
Zone 2.
Zone 2.
So let's go to a resource. Let's go to our tools and resource. Let's go back to the main menu, tools and resources, and see what the average is saying about that. So DAT trend lines, okay? Let's go down to DAT trend lines right here, right? You can kind of see the numbers, right? So you scroll down here and the trends for the numbers, right? So let's view some trends. So we're looking at a dry van. Let's look at the national rates for the dry van. We got a van to capacity. What van demand and capacity means is what is the load to truck ratio for a dry van? Or what's the load to truck ratio for a flatbed, which is the flatbed demand and capacity? Or what's the load to truck ratio for a reefer, which can kind of tell you who's controlling the market. If there's more loads than trucks or more trucks than loads, then that's why the rates are what they are. If there are more loads than trucks, then the rates are going to be this way. So, you're looking at supply and demand economics. But let's look at the national van rates. Okay, let's list that and see right here. And we get a map right now. This is a real-time reading. So where did that load pick up again? What zone?
Zone 2.
Zone 2. So zone
191.
2 no, that's not zone 2.
No, sorry. That's zone 1.
This is zone 2. That's out of Virginia, Chesapeake, Virginia. So on average, that load is paying 206. So if your carrier gives you a rate, if your carrier gives you a profile that says 250, you can come and check what the market is dictating right now and say, hey, Mr. Carrier, I know you want 250 a mile, but right now, realistically, the average cents per mile for your equipment type coming out of your area is 206. I will try for 250, but I'm going to at least get you 206 or better, right? So now you can give them some real world information for your specific equipment type. This is what coming out of your area, your zone, all these states in that zone is on average $2.06. Now, average means some loads may be higher than 206, some loads may be lower than 206, give or take about 20 cents a mile. So the range will be 226 to 186, and the 206 is the average. You see what I did? 26 less and 26 more. That's the average, give or take. When I say give or take 20 cents, you add 26 and you subtract 20 cents, okay? To give you a range, give or take. Follow that, guys? Ash, got your hands raised.
Yeah. So before you move on to the quote again,
Okay.
Can you show the other 2 types?
You read my mind. I was just gonna do. So
sweet.
if you do the
Thank
drop down, you can see what the flatbed rates are in our zone or any of the zones in the country. So you scroll down there. Of course, flatbeds are more, getting more cents per mile for a flatbed. Now, and then a reefer is probably going to be the highest one. So these are flatbeds coming, and these are the 5 zones: Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, Southwest, and West. Okay. So let's go to the reefer, and it should be blue, the color. We select reefer, and because blue, chill, ice, it gives that reefer feel. So those are the numbers for the reefer. So reefers and flatbeds are almost what? Like almost, I think reefers are a little bit higher. So we got 231 coming out here for a reefer. Let's stick to our zone in this example. 231 for a reefer And the flatbed was, the dry van was 206. The flatbed was 280. So 280 is the highest one. So the flatbed coming out of so right now today, and these come out they come out bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. So the flatbed is the highest for coming out of this zone, this area, the southeastern zone in all these states on average, right? Coming out of this area. Okay, you guys, so you guys follow that. And remember where to go to get this at. In our tools and resources area, and it's called trend lines. You have these little resources here. You can click it here, or you can easily scroll down to it, right? But I just made it easier because the ones that we need all the time, the quick reference ones, I made buttons for, so you can go ahead to them immediately as opposed to having to search for them. I made your job easier. So just click it, boom, and go straight to it. Okay, and there it is right there. Okay. The same thing with the NTTS. That's another resource that you guys can use to leverage your relationship with the carriers. NTTS stands for National Truck and Trailer Service. What it does is it provides services, and this is right here. This is a video on how to navigate it, but if you click the actual link here or the image, it goes to the National Truck and Trailer Service. And what that is, let's say your carrier has a flat tire, they need a trailer wash, they need some type of resource. You can reference this. Okay, what state are you in? Oh, I'm in Virginia. Well, let's stick to our Virginia Chesapeake theme, right? I'm in Virginia. Okay, you're in Virginia. What seems to be the situation? This is your carrier calling you, man. Hey, man, any local truck stops? I'm in Chesapeake right now. Where's the nearest truck stop at? Okay, you're in Chesapeake. You can either type the city in, or you can scroll down to the city. It's better to type it in. That way it just, if I can type it correctly, it just gives you the city. Boom, right there. So now the city, now you need to know what they were looking for. Truck stops, right there. Truck stops with repair or just general truck stops. So fuel stops, motel, way stations. So we will say truck stops with repair. I don't think Big Charlie's have one with repair. They may. Or anything else, way stations, rest areas, fuel stops, glass repair, tire repair, you may have something. So let's say truck stop. He wanted to go to a truck stop. You select truck stops, and then you check, I'm not a robot, yada, yada, yada. And then it lists the areas right there, right? Now, this one is way out here. I don't know why I gave it so big, because I must have selected the wrong city. Let's start that search again. And no, I selected Chesapeake, Virginia. I don't know why. Oh, greater than, what am I? I'm tripping. Greater than 150 miles. No. There, 50 miles, within a 50-mile radius, city and states, and now search. Okay, so no locations, right? So you want to make sure, and let's select another option. Let's say truck repair or tires, or let's say, for that example, then there was no truck stops with repair within 50 miles of Chesapeake, which is probably true. What about rest areas? And they're nowhere. Well, I'm in the wrong area. I'm out back. I am stuck, right? Tires, sales, and repair. We got anything? 50 miles. Let's increase the miles to 100 and go from there. Okay, so now, if you wanted to repair a tire, you had a flat or whatever, it'll list the cities and the distance from where you are in Chesapeake. We got one here on Highland Road in Chesapeake. That's out in Cavalier. That's in Cavalier Industrial Park, Highland Road off of Military Highway and Cavalier Boulevard, right? And then you got a mobile unit, and it just gives you, got one in Portsmouth, Chesapeake off Military Highway, Tidewater Express. I know some of these, East Coast Truck and Trailer, Goodyear, Commercial Tire, right? And you'll let your driver know. So for whatever service they need, you can look it up on the National Truck and Trailer Service and find that for them. That's another reference or another resource that you as a dispatcher have back here in the back office, okay? I don't want to get too far away from our lesson today as far as the load board.
He ain't never come back.
Okay, so now we got the dry van cents per mile average at 206, right? Not 280, because we're looking at a flatbed right now. So let's go back to the dry van national dry van rates, right? And it's 206 for that region. Let me cover the other one in here so you guys at least know what it is before we go back to the load board. The van demanded capacity, the flatbed demanded capacity, and the reefer demanded capacity means what is the load to truck ratio, right? So if I select demand and capacity for a dry van, then it should list what that is and color codes, right? So if you see the map and you see color codes right here, it says load to truck ratio. In other words, how many loads per one truck for a dry van in a particular area right here. So in the state of South Carolina, there are between 2.6 to 5.5 loads per one truck. That tells you how, or 5.4 loads to one truck. So that tells you your likelihood of finding a load for that truck, right, in that particular region. So it kind of gives you a breakdown of how you can dispatch and keep your carriers running by, again, sending them to areas that you can get them into and out of, right? So I just wanted to show you that a little bit as well, how to interpret that, okay? So back to the load search, right? If you open up, well, the question that someone asks is, how do you figure out the numbers when a broker does not post, right, the rate? That's what we got to before we went off on a little tangent here, right? Another thing you want to do before I get into that example also is you want to open up that specific load that you're looking at and get the details of it, right? Reference number. So when you call a broker, you can just give them the reference number. They can look it up in their system and see what it is. Then it says shipping time. It ships out at 11 a.m. So it's an appointed time. It ships out at 11 a.m. from Suffolk and it delivers at 11:30 a.m. in whatever day in Brookshire, Texas. It's scheduled to deliver at 11:30 a.m. on whatever day, 2 days later, a day and a half later, right? And other details of the load, okay? So now going back to that calculator, let me share the calculator here. And remember that load from Suffolk, Virginia for a dry van going to Brookshire, Texas was 1,380 miles, right? And remember that the trend line said for that zone, your driver wanted at least 250 a mile, but the trend line said it's only 206. So you tell your driver, you say, okay, well, if you can give me at least $2 a mile, I'll be fine. So 206 is closer to $2 a mile than 250 is. So you would take this is what when you call a broker, you're trying to negotiate a rate that's not posted already. You would take what your driver wanted cents per mile and multiply that times the number of miles of that particular trip or that shipment or that lane. So it was $2. He said $2 a mile. We're going to take the trend line one, 206 a mile. That was for a dry van on that trend lines. And we're going to multiply it times the number of miles for the trip. So they want 206 a mile, and that lane is going 13, or that load or shipment is going 1,380 miles. Then they should be at least given 2,800, let's say 2,850. Let's round up a little bit, 2,850. Everybody sees that? $2,850. You take, this is for a load that does not have a rate posted by a freight broker. You take your driver's average cents per mile that they want for their equipment type, and you multiply it times the number of miles on that particular load, or that lane, or that shipment. Does everybody see that 2,842 and 80 cents? Yep. Okay. I usually round up. So let's say 2,850. Nice in increments of 50, right? Not 25, but 50. So 2,850. Okay. Now, you also have to factor in your what? Your dispatcher fee, right? So for a drive-in for your carrier, let's say we were new, so we didn't have any experience yet. So a fair range between 5 and 10%, let's say 7%. So now we're going to take 28, because we rounded up, 2,850, and we're going to multiply that times 7%. And we get $199. So let's say $200. that $200 is what we would invoice the carrier for if they were to pick this load up, transport it, and deliver it, and invoice either the factoring company or that broker for payment. That carrier owes you for finding that load for them $199.50 or $200. You round up. If you want to be very detailed and specific, you do $199.50 or whatever. I'm just going to say $200. Okay. So now you know what your number is. What your price for booking that load for them is $199.50 or $200. But when you call the broker now you're doing all this before you call the broker and negotiate. Keep that in mind. When you call the broker and negotiate, what you're going to do is you're going to take $200, which is your invoice amount, add what the carrier should have gotten paid on that load, $28.50. Okay. That is $3,050. That is what we call our threshold number, meaning that we cannot allow the freight broker to quote us an amount below this amount in negotiating. Because why? It includes our $200 plus what the carrier should have gotten paid, which is the $28.50. So this is our threshold number. Yes, Tanya.
So because I'm new and how long will they hold that load open for me to calculate all of this with me being new?
So you would calculate all of this before you call the broker. Then you start your negotiation conversation after you call the broker. You should have a number in mind before you pick the phone up to call the broker.
I understand. Okay, so how long? Okay, because I think when I was on the other day, I think I heard this load is being posted on several other boards also, right?
It is.
So
if it's a smart broker, they're going to post a load on as many load boards as possible so they can increase their likelihood of getting calls about the load from various carriers. Some brokers put a load, if they get a carrier that's interested in that load, they will put that load on hold for an extended period of time for that specific carrier before they re-release it back to everyone. And let's say 30 minutes. They say, hey, okay, you want this load. Okay, let me send you our setup packet because you're not set up with us. And then I'll wait for you to return that to us. And if they don't return it to them and they'll even say it to you, I'll give you about 30 minutes before I release this back into the load board publicly so everyone else can see it and get other calls and inquiries. So a broker is more, now, does this make sense to you guys from a broker's perspective? I know you're dispatchers, but it would make more sense for me as a broker to get a carrier to move this load for me that's already an approved carrier under my freight brokerage, as opposed to me utilizing all that time setting up a new carrier and having to wait to them to give me all their paperwork and having me to qualify them. I would rather, as a broker, book this load with a carrier that's already an approved carrier under my brokerage, who's running under my broker company. I've already approved them in times past, right? That way, all that time is saved on me having to wait for them to fill out the broker carrier agreement, send over all their supporting documents as a carrier. I have to approve that with my compliance team, get back to them, send them rate confirmation and all that stuff. I would rather have a carrier that I already got approved. That way we skip that and we just go into the rate confirmation negotiations, right? So, but this is a threshold number. You cannot let the broker, or you shouldn't let the broker bid you below that, because it includes what you're going to invoice the carrier for and what the carrier should get. Now, when you call the broker after you've done your mathematics, you want to give them a number higher than this number, but not too high to outbid yourself. Okay. So 3,300 is pretty good. That's probably the highest I would go. I would say at least 200 to 250 higher. No higher than $250. So $250 added to 3050 is 3,300, like David posted in the chat. I would say 3,250. So when you call the broker, you say, hey, Mr. Broker, I'm looking at this load, this dry van load, picking up in Suffolk, going over to Texas on Monday. Is that load still available? And then you go through that conversation with them. I see you don't have a rate posted for it. We can do it for 33. And then the broker's going to either tell you yes or no. I don't have 33 in it. Can you do it for 3,250 or 3,175? Well, can you do it for 3,250? You said 33. Can you do it for either 3,250 or 3,175? Well, you can, because it's above your threshold number, right? 30.50 is the least that you want to take because that includes what the carrier should have gotten paid plus your 200. Now, are there cases where a freight broker says, no, we are firm in $3,000, like $50 less than your threshold. We're firm in that amount. Yes, there are cases where the brokers are firm, they won't budge, the rate is non-negotiable. In those cases, what you would do is call your carrier and let them know, like, hey, I know you wanted this lane to go to Texas because you have family over there. The broker is not budging on the price that we negotiated for them. Do you still want this lane at $3,000? Right? And they'll say, sure. You'll say, okay, well, when I invoice you, it's coming out of that amount as opposed to me trying to negotiate it on top of the rate and pull more money from the freight broker side, as opposed to coming out of your pocket. So the point with that is you make sure you communicate with the carrier. Either way, whether the broker negotiated with you or they were firm in their number, at least the carrier is aware of what's going on. Never book a load with a freight broker without your carrier knowing the details and the numbers on the load. That is a big no-no in dispatching. Okay, big no-no. You will not be working with that carrier very long. But before you call the broker, all this stuff is already calculated, figured out, because you're looking at the load, the details, and you don't see a rate posted. So you're saying, oh, okay, this is what they want to do. And then you do your numbers, your threshold, you add on top of that and go from there, okay? So, any questions on that? Do we need to do another? Let's do another example. How about that? To kind of get some interaction. So let's say I'm a dry van carrier. My carrier profile said I wanted $2 a mile, okay? And I was picking up a load in, so get your calculators ready for a second so you can kind of figure out how to, so let's edit this load. I'm a dry van carrier, right? Still a dry van. I'm picking up in Detroit. What up, though? And I'm going down to Atlanta for a dry van, okay? Atlanta, Georgia. My carrier profile with you under a dispatch agreement says I want $2 a mile at least. For every load, at least I want $2 a mile. If you can do better, that's fine. Picking up on Monday. Deadhead is still 100. Origin and destination. My weight is for a dry van, 40,000 pounds or less, okay? And we're gonna hit search, right? So we got 22 loads, right? 3 similar, 3 exact, 19 similar, okay? And I'm gonna put this in the order of, right? So some of them have posted rates, others do not, right? So we can do both examples. We can do one that has a posted rate and one that does not have a posted rate. So for the first one that has a posted rate of what? $1,400, right? You guys see that? 1,400 right there, right? So let's click that, open it up. And they want some additional insurance coverage. They want $250,000 on cargo instead of $100,000. That's the carrier. Carrier just need to call their insurance company and increase it from $100,000 to $250,000. It's an extra $50 to $100 on the premium. That's not a problem. Anyway, it's on average paying $2.03 a mile anyway. Your carrier said on their profile they wanted $2, so that's fine. So now you guys as dispatchers charge 7%. Okay. So how do we figure out the numbers? And the miles is 766 miles. So, and that's fine. We know the miles 766 because it says it right here. We'll figure that out when we find a load that doesn't have a rate, but we have one that has a rate. So the broker posted it for 1,400. You're going to add your 7% to that, right? What is 7% of 1,400?
$98.
$98. right there. So now what does that $98 represent? That represents what you would invoice the carrier for finding that load for them. And if you booked that load for them, they picked it up and delivered it, right? They owe you $98. Now, when you call the broker, you got to calculate what your numbers are, your negotiated number, the higher number, to try to pull money from the broker side as opposed to pulling it from the carrier's pocket. So the first thing you would do is what? You would add the 98 to the 1,400, which would be 1,498, right? So let's say 1,500, let's round up, 1,500, right? That is your threshold because it includes the 1,400 plus your 98, correct? That's your threshold. Threshold meaning that the broker should not negotiate you below this number, okay? When you call the broker, you're going to give them a number, of course, above the threshold, right? So what? 1,600, David said 1,700, so he went $200 more. So you call the broker. Let's say the broker said, you called him, David, and he said, hey, I'm looking at this load picking up in Plymouth, Michigan, going to Griffin, Georgia on Monday. Is that load still available? You go through the process. And the broker says, well, we got it. I see you guys got it posted for 14. We got a truck empty right now. Can we do 17? Broker says, I don't have that much in it. But I'm negotiable. Can you do you said 17. Can you do 1,550 or 1,600? Can you do 1,600? Mr. David?
1,600.
1,500.
1,600.
Yeah, 1,600. Yes. Can you do 1,600?
Yes.
Okay. And why can't you do that? Because it's above your threshold number. So if you book it for 1,600, who gets the extra money? Who gets that extra $100?
Carrier.
The carrier. How much do you invoice the carrier for? The 7% of the original 1,400 on that
90.
load. So it's still $98. Some people say, hey man, since I negotiated it to 1,600, I should take 7% of the 1,600. Now you're double dipping because you took 7% of the 1,400 to get to that number, and now you want to take 7% of the 1,600 again. The carrier will recognize that and they'll get rid of you. And of course, that's greed, but so you guys understand that? Now we did one with a one that's posted. Let's do one with one that's not posted, a rate that's posted by the broker, right? The next one. Here's one that's picking up in Hillsdale, Michigan, going to Atlanta, Georgia, to the exact city that we needed to deliver to, right? Coming out of Detroit, which is Hillsdale, Michigan is 99 miles from Detroit. So it's within our 100-mile radius. So it's a decent load. Said 685 miles, right? But it doesn't have a posted rate. So remember in our carrier profile, the carrier said they wanted how much per mile?
$2.
$2 a mile. So the extra goes to the carrier. Yes, the extra goes to the carrier. The carrier can use that for fuel or whatever else, Terrence. Yes. $2 a mile. So what do? We take $2 a mile and multiply it by the trip miles, by how many miles going to be on that trip, correct? So what is $2 a mile times, in this case, 685 miles? What is that number?
1,370.
1,370. And now let's not round up. Let's just use exact numbers at this point. So now 1,370, remember our percentage was 7%. What is 7% of 1,370? Let's not even round up. Let's just use exact numbers.
About $95.
$95.90, right? So let's say $96, 10 cents. You can round up 10 cents. That's not a problem, 10 cents. Let's say $96. That will be what you will invoice your carrier for if they were to pick this load up and book it at that 1,370 rate. Now, when you call the broker, you're always doing these numbers and calculations in the background. When you call the broker, you have to figure out what your threshold is and how much above you want to negotiate, right? So $96 plus that 1,370 $14.66. So now when you call the broker, now $14.66 is your threshold, meaning this is the number you can't have the broker negotiate you below, because again, it includes the $13.70 that the carrier would get and your $96 you would get for your services, dispatching services, right? So now $14.66, you're going to give them a number higher than that, maybe 1,600, David says 1,650. That's not bad. So there's a sweet spot you got to be careful of, right? You want to go high enough, but not too high to outbid yourself with that broker, right? That's why I always say between $150 to $200 higher than your threshold, because you know the broker's going to go down in $50 increments. That's what brokers do. So 1,650 will be okay. So now you call that broker on that load and say, hey, I see a drive-in load picking up on Monday coming out of Hillsdale, Michigan, going to Atlanta. And they say, yeah, that load's still available. Are you interested in it? Yeah. You say, yeah, we don't have a rate posted for it. Oh no, what do you think you want for it? We can do $1,650. And broker says, no, we can't do $1,650. Can you do $1,550? Well, can you do $1,550? He took $100
Yes.
off of it. Yes, you can, because it's above your threshold. Your threshold was what? $14.66.
1466.
So $1,550 is not almost close to $100 more than your threshold, which is going to go to the carrier towards their fuel anyway, whatever they want to use it for, right? Doing it like this and giving the carriers the extra money does build a better relationship between you and that carrier. They see that you are not trying to step over dimes to chase pennies. Okay? That's what they see. You're not stepping over dimes to chase pennies. If they see that, then it's going to build that relationship stronger with you and that carrier, and it's going to spread a word of mouth from that carrier to other carriers. Hey man, my dispatcher, he or she does a great job and tries to get me more money and are honest and are not trying to scam me, right? Just trying to do good business, basic good business. They know what they're doing. They're sending me to areas where I can get freight into and out of consistently, and they're negotiating more money. They're squeezing more money from the brokers, okay? And they're honest and straightforward with me, and they call me whenever they find a load so that they see that if I'm empty or not, to make sure that I'm available for that load, because that's why I say never book a load for your carrier without calling them, because you don't know if they're already under a load or if they're empty, right? Because until you become their go-to dispatchers, you can believe that most carriers have more than one dispatcher that they're getting loads from. If they are smart, they will, because they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. Until they can completely trust that one dispatcher that keeps them running weekly and consistently, and they can always turn to, they're going to be dipping in every dispatcher's pot to try to find the best loads. That just makes economic sense from a truck driver's perspective. If I was a truck driver, I would do the same thing. Okay. Until you find a dispatcher that's doing it for you regularly, building relationships with the brokers, maybe some direct customers, and finding you consistent freight, then as a carrier, I'm going to stick with that particular dispatcher. When am I considered an experienced dispatcher? So I'll let the group answer that question. When should you consider yourself an experienced dispatcher? When do you think you should consider yourself? And anyone can answer that question. What do you think makes you an experienced dispatcher? Time.
I think time is key, but when you're able to manage a certain amount, pretty efficient, evenly across the board, where nobody feels left out, and begin to scale on that, I think that's when you're becoming to be really good at that point and managing the ones you got and able to keep them.
Right. When you're able to find that balance, let's say you got 3 to 5 carriers you're dispatching. If you can give the same level of service to the first carrier as you can to the fifth carrier in a balanced process, you are an experienced dispatcher. And if you get another carrier, a sixth carrier, you know right there it's time to scale your business and hire someone else as a sub dispatcher, because the moment you cannot provide the same level of service to another carrier that you added, it's time to scale your business and bring on help, sub dispatchers and things like that. So until that time, and then also what makes you an experienced carrier, of course, is time and communication, right? Being trustworthy and honest, fair, just basic, simple life, universal attributes that not only applies in transportation, but in life. You become experienced the more you do things, right? That's true in everything. That's a universal trait, right? You become more experienced the more you do certain things. So the more you're dispatching, will you bump your head? Of course you will. Of course you're going to bump your head, but guess what happens? There's beauty in bumping your head in some cases, because you learn from those experiences and it makes you a better person, and you know what not to do the next time, right? So experience, right? There's a saying, experience is the best teacher, because you learn from it. Now, if you don't learn from the experience, then you're going to repeat the outcome, right? So learning your craft, like Terrence said, learning your craft. Don't put the cart before the horse, right? Learn your craft, basically learn, and this is your craft. This is the beginning stages of your quote unquote craft, which is dispatching first. Get that process down first before you even decide to scale with other services for your dispatching company, right? Like bookkeeping, invoicing, things like that. So, Keisha.
Hi, to piggyback off of what you were just saying about a carrier finding multiple dispatch services, I have a situation that I need to, if I may please ask for your advice on.
Okay.
I have some Craigslist ads I've been running. Okay, I've been getting some responses. I got one response a week ago from a local carrier, in my area, who's interested in getting an additional dispatch company to work with him. He currently has a company out of Texas he's working with. He's not satisfied because they're unreliable and his drivers are getting stuck. Now, we got along, clicked, everything meshed very well. And when I disclosed the rate that I'm charging, the 7%, he was a little hesitant because the dispatch service he's working with is charging him 2 to 3%. I believe it may have been 3. So he said he would have to think about my services, and I asked him if it was okay if I follow up with him in about a week, which I have to do this Monday. What would be your advice to try to come back and pull him in? He's got 3 trucks that he needs dispatched.
I will mention to him, well, the reason you're not satisfied with your previous or your current 2 to 3% charging dispatching companies because you're getting 2 to 3% type of work and effort from them. That's why your carriers are stuck. You can't find reloads or anything like that. So you get what you pay for.
And
so
yeah, I told him that.
You paid for 2 to 3% dispatching services as opposed to 7, 8, or 9% dispatching services, and from companies that you're part of a dispatching network that will we're not going to leave you out here by yourself. You have resources also, Keisha, where you can refer to.
Right.
So let them know that you're backed by a group and a network of dispatchers that can help find loads for them, as opposed to that 2 to 3% dispatching service. They might be a company that's outsourced over in India somewhere.
I believe they are, because
right.
when I asked him and he said Texas, I already know those outsourced dispatch companies have very, very cheap fees. So that's what I kind of think it is.
Right.
They may have a company registered here in Texas, but they're not here in Texas physically.
Or just ask him if you're willing to do this, to provide a service for him, 1 load for free, as an opportunity to show what you can do, or take on the challenge of getting that carrier out of the place that the 2 to 3% dispatchers got him stuck in.
Okay.
For free, to prove your worth to him. If you are willing, if you are entertaining working with this person. Otherwise, don't even waste your time. But if you want to work with that person, if they seem like there's somebody, and it sounds like they are, that you're interested in working with.
Yes.
Okay. What equipment types do they have? Vans, reefers?
Yeah, it's drive-in, and he likes to run Midwest, primarily Kentucky, Ohio, but he's open to anything in the Midwest.
So that's another thing
Drivers are
too.
good.
So why? So that's crazy. So he's in the #1 zone in the country, and drivers can't get him out of there.
I find it awfully strange. And then he says he has dedicated freight, which really didn't sound right to me.
So
But go ahead.
So if he has dedicated freight, then why is he even having a conversation with you about his dispatcher, right? Because getting them dedicated freight, you always know where you're picking up and delivering to. You don't need, I mean, almost at the point you don't need a dispatcher, except to manage paperwork.
Right.
So
some things, as you just picked up, I picked up on it as well. He's had his MC for 12 years. Everything looks legit. Numbers look good. But it was just some things that he was saying that just didn't add up to me. As you
the dedicated freight was #1, and then the 2 to 3% dispatching people was #2. So I would move a little bit light with him then, because those are red for me in my experience of what I've been through over the years. Those are red flags for me. So but if you are wanting to work with them, then you can either offer that free service to get them drivers out of. So where are the drivers stuck at now? Are they stuck in the Midwest? I can't believe that they're stuck in the Midwest.
They're I believe he said there was one stuck in the Midwest and then one stuck here in California, which is where I'm located. And he's located here too, in the southern area.
Okay.
Or two stuck in the Midwest, excuse me.
Yeah, well, California is getting more stringent, especially with AB5.
Yes.
They might as well put up barbed wire fences, because it's
exactly
an institution.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What do you think about a flat rate with the number of trucks that he has?
It's totally your choice because it's your company. So, but you would make more money. You saying a flat rate per week to dispatch all 3 trucks at one time?
Per truck, per week.
So, okay. If you're gonna do a flat rate per truck per week, you might as well do a percentage per truck per week, because you'll make more money on the percentage side, and we can do the numbers. We can do the numbers on that another time. But
yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm not gonna hold you up. Thank you, Charles.
No problem. Ms. Chasa.
Hi, Charles. Good morning.
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to comment on that young lady, on what that young lady was saying, because I was doing some cold calling and I ran into someone who was using a dispatching service, and he told me that he was paying 3% for the dispatching service. And I basically told him what you said. I said, it's probably overseas and 3% is probably a lot of money, but here in the United States, 3% is nothing. And he wasn't happy with them. He was saying that for 3%, he could do what they're doing. They weren't doing anything.
Exactly.
So I called him expecting 1 truck, and he has 6 trucks. And I told him that my fee was 8%. And he told me that 8% was too much. So I struck a deal with him, and I was like, listen, I'm not asking to dispatch all 6 of your trucks. Because one, I can't dispatch all 6 of his trucks. But I told him I will dispatch 1 truck for 1 month at 5%. And if you're happy, then we can move forward and renegotiate my contract. And he was fine with it. Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. So stuff like that. So you're going back and forth. So that's the art of negotiating. You want to, you see the pushback they give you. So you offer them something a little bit, give them a low hanging fruit. They take it. And then with the understanding and the hopes of negotiating what you really want on the back end over time anyway.
Right. So, because trying to negotiate, trying to dispatch 6 trucks at 5% is really, really low. I would drive myself crazy. I'll be burnt out, and it's not worth it for 5%. for a month.
Right. It's almost like hustling backwards. So that's a very good point. But great job by you, Chasa. The cold calling queen.
Thank you.
That's a good job. So yeah, sometimes you gotta just let the carriers know. You got to be firm because this is your business. You have to be firm in what your rates are. But if you're willing to wiggle a little bit with a carrier, if you feel that you want to work with that person based off of the conversation, the energy that you may have gotten from, then offer them maybe the first load for free so that you can prove to them your worth or what you know or your skill set, right? And then they see that and then they say, okay, you did this first load for free in order to show me you've proven yourself. I'll go ahead and award you that 8% in Chasa's case, or whatever the percentage you wanted to do. So sometimes it's kind of a give and take, but it depends on it's a case by case basis. You're not going to do that with every carrier because some carriers are rude, others are nice. So you have to gauge that once you get on the phone with them, All right. Any final thoughts and questions? Did everybody get some good information from the not only from the load board training side, but also from the resources that we showed you, National Truck and Trailer, the trend lines with the different rates for the current rates and everything?
I did, especially with what Chasa just said. I'm probably saying her name wrong. I'm sorry. But especially with what she just said, because I said I wouldn't even wasted my time. But then when I listened to her, I'm like, okay, she could have offered him, I could have, there's something else that we can do besides just letting the carrier go. Because I would have been like, he full of it. I'm not going to keep going on round and round with him. Because just the questions the answers that he was giving, you could tell that he was really trying to blow her off. He really wasn't interested. And I would have just let him go instead of wasting my time. But I learned something today as far as that. Thank you for that. And then I forgot about the trend lines.
Right. So there's resources back there. So go to those areas, guys. The forms and documents and the tools and resources are good for you too. Because this is supplemental information that'll help you and give you some insight and oversight in your craft to kind of support what you're trying to do, right? Supporting information, supporting documents, supporting resources that'll help you. So, all right. I see 2 hands raised. Linda B.
Good afternoon, Mr. Charles. I hope you and your family are well, and good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to reiterate what you always tell us also when we're negotiating with carriers, to let them know that our percentage, whether it be 5, 6, 7, or 8, we're going to always negotiate that with the broker. So that's just something that I always tell them too when they think I'm a little more expensive than I should be, and it helps.
Right. You're going to pull. You basically say I'm pretty much working for you for free. I'm pulling my money from the broker side. The only reason I'm invoicing you is because you're the one I'm having a contract with.
That's right.
I can't invoice the broker because I'm under a dispatcher agreement with you, but I can pull money from their pocket to add to the rate. It's going to give you more money. When I invoice you, you're going to get that extra money that I negotiated anyway. So you're winning it regardless.
Yeah, so it's basically just educating the carrier, because that's one hand up that you have against other dispatchers, because everybody don't do that. Everybody don't negotiate the rate on top of everything else with the broker.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir.
All right. Chelsea, you got your hand raised?
Yes, I do. You know what? You just gave me a great idea by showing us these different trend lines. So I'm thinking that it may be less stressful for us, less conversations for us, if we sent our carriers, like you said that they update those trend lines every 2 weeks. So if we send our carriers an email every 2 weeks saying, hey, these are the trend lines.
Like
because
with a screenshot or something, with screenshots. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would see that, because during a week when we're dispatching for them for some crazy reason, they're thinking we can get more than whatever we booked this load at a great rate. So it's just food for thought for anyone that has carriers that, taking a snippet or, a screenshot and just sending it out every 2 weeks so that you and the carrier on the same page. It definitely would be less of a headache.
Yeah, I agree. It just adds ammunition to your arsenal as a dispatcher, and it makes you more marketable, and adds value to your company. So, anyone else? All right, we're good. Well, I want to thank you guys. Those who are in here as guests, those who are members, always thank you guys. Really appreciate your coming in here and getting some training to add value to your company, to do it how it should be done, and to provide a service to the carriers that you do have, right? So that's always a good thing. If you notice about the website, we are updating it as we speak in the background. So there's more artificial intelligence technology being added to the website. So, but our next, okay, I see a hand. Ash.
Hey Charles, so I don't know if you remember last week I did text you about how on mobile it's a little bit different than what it is online on the laptop.
Yeah, and we're working on that experience as well. Yep. I don't know if it's changed for you. It's probably the same at this point, but I got to call I've hired one of the, so my website is built on the Wix.com platform. And right. One of the original software developers when Wix was first created, I've hired. So, and she's working on my website on the back end. Now that's a pretty expensive hire, so hopefully things will get resolved. So, but yeah, but I'm aware of that though, Ash, very much so. All right, and awesome. and keep me posted periodically as to whether it has changed or not. That way I can update them and let them know that, look, you guys need to put a fire under this. So
I'll shoot you a text today.
Okay, thank you. Emanuela, I'm sorry, Emanuela.
It's fine. It's Emanuela. Yeah, I have a question because I asked that on Facebook, on the Facebook group, because you guys had a load board mastery where we actually can see like live calls, and I missed that one since that one is in March. So will they be having another one in the future soon?
I
don't know.
I don't know. I got to get with Chasa. Chasa's on here, right? We haven't done a load board mastery since March, right? We didn't do any in April.
Yeah, because I thought it was May, and I guess I looked at it so fast because I was going to take that 2 hour time off work.
Yeah,
but
so we will have that conversation, Chasa and I, and now that mind you, because it's Chasa's time, and that comes as a price point with that, so you would have to pay for that load board mastery because it's
I understand.
Yeah, it's her time and everything like that. So, but even though we have minimal load board trainings in here because we have to train. I train more on a broader perspective of dispatching overall, including load boards. But with Chasa's load board mastery seminar, you get very specific, granular, detailed functionality and everything in that. So,
okay. Yeah. She does mentoring too. Is there anyone that I can be able to assist with mentoring, like one-on-one?
I would reach out to her, Chasa. You guys might want to exchange information.
Sure. You are more than welcome to email me. My email address is legacydispatchers@gmail.com.
Can you put that in the chat?
I'm doing it right now.
Okay. And to answer your question, it seems to be in demand, Charles, because this isn't the first time someone's mentioned the seminar class. So hopefully me and Charles will get together and we'll have one pretty soon.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, there it is. So, all right, guys. I'm going to the Zoom training because our next live Zoom training will be in May, around May 9th, I believe. Or let me look at the calendar, because right now we are today is the last day in the 4th week of our month of April for Zoom training. We do it every second and fourth week of each month. So the second week in May, I'm looking at a calendar as we speak, will be May 7th. That'll be Sunday, May 7th, Wednesday, May 10th, and Saturday, May 13th. So May 7th will be the next live Zoom training. So I'll put I'll replace this calendar because it's pretty much done today with May and with the same concept. Circle the dates and the times so you guys can see it. If you notice, the look and feel of the site is a little bit different on the Zoom page. And if you navigate the site, it's starting to look different. So, but I will do that. Okay. In the meantime, you do have access to the portal, self-paced training, Facebook group, YouTube channels. Text, ask all the questions you need as you progress in your dispatching journey. Okay. For those of you who are guests, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you will consider joining the platform. Those of you who are new, thank you for signing up. We really appreciate it. And everyone else, of course, all the students, thank you always for your support continuously. The Logistics Learning Center is coming along. So that'll be coming up pretty soon too. So, all right. Until then, have a great weekend, guys. I will talk to you guys on Sunday, May 7th.